Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to talk about corporate takeaways for our small business. All right, today's episode, we are going to talk about a few things that we can pull from our experience working for the man, and we're going to flip it so that we can make it smart for our small business. Welcome to the Small Business Hustle. And hello, I'm Molly B, your host and owner of MJ's Market, a small general store in South Dakota. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss operating a small business. All right. So before we dive in and talk about these takeaways we can pull from our corporate environment, we need to share a quote. All right. I'm going to admit this one had a lot of attributing authors. I just am not going to name one because I just don't know how this quote came to me. So there are a lot of people who have said a variation of this or wrote a book with this title. I still just love it. And it is grow through what you go through. So this is what we're doing, right? We worked in a corporate setting, and so now we're going to pull some of those takeaways, and so we're going to grow from it. So this is a perfect quote for today's episode. So what we're going to talk about is how can we apply some of these takeaways from our previous lives in these corporate settings and make them work for our business. All right. So one of the things I think that we can all admit is that there are small businesses out there with inconsistencies. They've got a few things that might just be off a bit. Okay, so one of the things that small businesses most of the time are going to lack is the accountability of a district, area, or regional manager to tell you honestly where your pitfalls are. Customers are not exactly going to do this for you. A subtopic of the accountability of a district manager was that a thing I learned from working in a corporate environment was how I wanted to not be as a leader. So how not to be as a leader. So when I was not the general manager, I would find that visits would be really stressful when we would have a district manager come to town. I mean, the amount of pressure and stress that would be put on us, it was like this own job and project preparing for the visit. And I just thought, you know what? I don't want to be this way. I don't want to feel this stress in my life. I don't want to have this experience. And I don't want to make other people feel like I feel when we have a visit. So that was one of the things that I definitely learned. And I think that's something that we all need to reflect on, is that even if you had a bad experience, instead of focusing on how that person wasn't a good leader or how that person wasn't a good manager, instead, focus on those specific techniques and really think about constructive feedback that you would give that person if you were their boss. So even if you're not their boss, flip yourself and say, these are the things that I would say to this person to improve their performance. And when you do that, you can think, okay, so those are the good things, and the things I don't want are the things that they have done. So you can learn so much from a bad situation if you choose to see it. Okay, so let's jump back into the accountability of a district manager. So what I decided is that these district managers, they have a job to do, okay? The visits themselves have a very high cost to the organization. So they use a lot of resources. They pull this person away from what they might be able to do as far as answering questions or dispersing strategies and things of that nature. So they have to travel probably. And then they just have an extremely high cost in terms of direct money, resources, etc. So if we really think about that, they have a job to do, and they cannot leave me without any feedback. They have to do their job. They have to give me some constructive feedback. So using that knowledge, I evolved my thinking, and I decided, okay, they have to give me feedback. So what feedback am I willing to receive? So when we think about a small business, most of the time, again, they are probably not going to have any kind of an oversight, any kind of an area manager or a district manager or anything like that. So depending on your role within your small business, if you're an owner operator, you're in the trenches every day. The best scenario is maybe having an owner that's not there every day. They can give a little bit of an outside in look. But even then, this technique that I've taught myself, I find to be really helpful with any kind of a leader situation, and you can apply it to a broad variety of scenarios. So again, how can you create that type of hypercritical look at your own business without having someone come in and do it for you? So I taught myself this technique, and it's the stop and scan. So this is a process of visual and physical reviewing of your business, of all of your business. So what you're going to do is you're going to be really giving yourself a very honest and sober look at your business, and you're going to start preferably outside at the exterior of your business. You're going to stop and you're going to scan the entire environment. You're going to look at access. You're going to look at parking. You're going to look at landscaping and weeds and things of that nature. And you're going to document everything that you can in that space. Depending on the type of business, lighting can be very important. Do you have lights out? Do you have something that's damaged outside that needs repaired and you need to get somebody in there? And then you're going to go inside the business. And so this whole time you should have a clipboard and a pen. You're going to walk very slowly, and you're just going to be scanning and recording what you have noted. You are not doing anything but recording. This is a write only. Do not do. The stop and scan is for that only. Do not do. Okay. So all these visual takeaways, you're going to be documenting them. It could be really important if you serve food that the scent is good. You don't want a lobby that smells like garbage. That would be bad. Okay. If you have a business where relaxation is at the point of your business and there are loud sounds or again, scents that are not pleasant, it could take away from that experience. So those are things you need to document and write down. Again, we're not fixing, we're not doing, we are just writing it all down. Okay, so the first time you do this, it will be extremely overwhelming how many things you can write down and document and capture. If you're not getting things written down, you maybe need to ask a friend for help, somebody who is brutally honest with you, because you must not be seeing it. Okay. But if you are writing a lot of things down, it might be almost overwhelming. That's the way I usually find it, is that it's overwhelmingly too many things. So I usually will say the first 1 to 2 times you do this, you might want to walk just a little bit faster so that you're not writing down so much. It can feel really overwhelming. And generally, when you're doing this, when you're writing on the piece of paper, you want to leave a little bit of space on the left-hand column so that you can break down the list. And so when we break down the list, what we're going to do is we're going to break it down and ABC it. So I like A's to be things that are going to be maybe this week. B's are maybe this month or this period, depending on what the time frame of your business looks like. And then C is a little bit long term. This is a little bit more complicated. Maybe we need to do some research, look at some equipment. Maybe it's that repairman. We need to figure out if we can get them out. Maybe we need a quote for something. So this is something that's a little bit longer term. And then sometimes we'll maybe asterisk some items and say, these are things we can get done right now. These are things we can get done today. So once we have ABC'd the list, what I'm going to do then is the goal, I guess, when I'm walking is if I have to walk by myself, that I'm writing a lot of things down, or I'm walking with my highest level leader that is available. And so that leader is walking with me, whatever level of management they are, as long as they're the highest one available in the business that day. Okay, so what we're doing is the things that are now. So let's imagine, we have some high windows in our business and we notice some spider webs that collected up high. They kind of love those spaces, right? Up in the corners of those window frames that are up above the main doors, those types of areas, or just in kind of a corner where people are walking in, but maybe it's not actually heavy traffic over in that little corner. And so you'll get some weird pest activity or something like that. So in that situation, those are really fast fix. You can grab a broom, you can fix those really fast. So you could grab, just any regular employee and have them fix that. But that's never what I had. Never did I grab a cashier and say, hey, I want you to clean this, fix this, etc. I took that highest level leader and I said, get that spider web. There's some leaves in the entryway. Get those, whatever that may be. I never asked that cashier, because let's think about how we're teaching that leadership. Okay. That cashier is only responsible for themselves during their shift. If you have a leader in your store, manager, whatever you want to call them, they are responsible for other people, even when that leader isn't working, right? They're going to disseminate information. They're going to direct other leaders, whatever that may be. So they're the person I'm going to talk to when I need that spider web fixed, because you know what? They're going to make sure that those don't occur again. They do not want to clean that spider web, because that might not be feedback that they're willing to receive in the future. It wasn't feedback I was willing to receive. So I made sure that that didn't happen again. All right. So this is really I found this to be very beneficial. Sometimes it really sucks when it's your own business, because you've got to walk around and go, oh man, there's so much I feel like I need to get done. So sometimes you have to put a little bit of blinders on when you do the stop and scan, so that you don't cause more stress to yourself, but that you're moving and propelling yourself in a positive direction. And the more often you do it, the smaller and smaller that list will get, and the more you'll create processes that will continue to make these problems not occur, and that they will just be part of the process, the daily process. So asking yourself, are you really holding yourself accountable the way that a district manager would for results and consistency in your business? I also love using this at home. It's a great technique if you have people coming over and maybe you're planning quite a few, like a holiday party or something. And so I can really just I'll stop and kind of stare and and imagine all of the situations. Like, okay, everybody's going to park here. Where are they going to put their coats? Where do I want shoes? Where the plate's going to go? How is the rotation going to go? What is this going to look like? Who's going to sit? Do we have enough seats, etc. Small children are usually a part of that. Where are they going to play and enjoy themselves, but not cause horrible damage to my home? So those are always questions that I kind of go through in my mind when I do the stop and scan in my personal life. So I found it to be immensely helpful. I sure hope that is something that you guys find helpful as well. All right. So, second thing that I found really helpful for my corporate environments is the plan, do, review. So this one I learned at a training. They flew me to, I don't know, an area office of some sort, wherever it was at that time. And they put me up in a hotel along with all these other colleagues of mine. And they also had a ton of other people from around the area or region or whatever layout they had for that company at the time. And so I just thought about wow, there's a lot of cost here. Like, some people were a little bit closer, so they just paid them mileage. They didn't have to spend the night because they didn't have to catch flights and have weird, things like that. But they had a lot of money tied up in this event. And I remember some of the other people who were with me, and they were like, this is a waste of time. This is so boring. I'm not learning anything during all of the little breaks. And I'm like, there was a decision maker that decided that this should happen, and they saw value in this. And I want to pull from this the value they saw, because they spent a lot of money to get me here. And so when I really reflected on the plan, do, review process, I thought about ways that I could apply this into the work that we did. And they gave us some theories and everything, but I really took it to heart and thought, I really want to see if this is helpful. And the first thing that I have learned about it is that review is the most important. So in your life, you need to spend some time planning, and then you're going to do the thing, and then you're going to review how the thing went. And then that just follows into the next one. You're going to plan, and then you're going to do, and then you're going to review. And every time you review, you learn something and you put that into your planning. And so now all of a sudden you spend so much time saved in the doing process because you've learned, you reflected, you thought about it, you said, what would be the best way? How could we do this better? And because it's so much less obvious to spend time reviewing and reflecting, we just don't do it as often. And so I think that was what was the most helpful for me in that idea or that process, is to really spend time reflecting, and figuring out ways that we can do that. A thoughtful plan can save lots of energy, cost, and time. I can't tell you how many times I've decided okay, I'm going to rearrange, and I start going after it. And then it's like, oh man, I didn't measure first, And I mean, I almost never do that now. I am so, if I think about changing anything, I mean, I'll even put tape down on the floor so that I can kind of imagine how it would feel, because feel is a huge part about, my business. I don't want it to feel like the place is coming in on you. I want it to feel open. I want it to feel like it has a nice flow. And so I'll put tape down on the floor and kind of imagine, and I'll do almost like a stop and scan, and I'll stop and I'll just kind of imagine okay, if this is here, and how are people going to move through here? Because the time I spend doing that saves me so much headache, to realize that, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. We spent all this time moving this around, and this is not good. So, okay. So the third thing that I found immensely helpful from my time working for the man was a weekly touch base meeting with my employees. So at whatever level I was at, as I moved up the little chain, I spent time, taking all of those really repetitive things. There were some manual processes that had to be done on a regular basis. And so I would break those down into pieces, and I would delegate those out to people, and I would pull them from the floor, and I would go with them to the office. We'd sit down. I would explain the thing that I needed them to do. I would explain their role in the process and how I wanted them to do it. We would have a conversation about it. They would ask me questions. And then and even though it felt at the time like I was so overwhelmed with what I needed to get done that I didn't have time to sit down with them and explain this and have this meeting, like this extra unnecessary meeting. What I started to find right away is all of a sudden stuff started getting done without me even asking. And it was really early in my leadership journey, but man, I felt that so much at my core. It propelled me forward in a way that was just so beneficial. And so that was just kind of, that was the thing that really took me to that next level, was that it was so valuable to take time to discuss the direction and the goals, and that it would pay off immensely as things just would start moving in a great direction. And now all of a sudden, people just kind of were more focused, and they knew more about what was expected of them. And all of a sudden they would get these things accomplished, and they even had room to do more things. And pretty soon, we just had this great process and this great flow, and people were happier and they enjoyed their jobs more. And I was able to build a lot of engagement and a lot of momentum because of that. Okay, so the fourth thing that I learned was connect and collaborate. This was something that was completely self-taught in the environment I was in. I found myself with a promotion, and I had a lot of questions. The trainings I was given were not the trainings I needed. They were fine. They probably taught me great things, but they weren't the answers to my real questions, my real world questions. I had met some of my colleagues, but I wasn't, in the previous environment, the manager right above me was where it ended. There was nobody to ask above that. But now I was the top. I was that level. So if I had a question, I couldn't ask my employees under me. They didn't know the answer. So, I looked around at my colleagues and my peers, and I thought, this one's my favorite, but I want to keep enjoying them and I want them to enjoy me. So I can't ask them all my questions. I don't want them to, I don't want them to dodge me or to just not enjoy when I give them a phone call or when I email them. I should also point out I am in small town America, so we're not all in the same town as me. A phone call was what it was, or an email. There was no such thing as we got to just run across town and see each other because we're just in too small of areas to have multiple of our businesses in the same town. And so what I decided right away is like, okay, I really want this person to still like me. So I don't want to ask them all my questions. Okay. So I kind of like did a little strategy and I said, okay, so when I have a question like this, I'm going to ask this person. And when I have a question like this, I'm going to ask this person. And I had a few people where I just rotate them no matter what. So it's like, okay, well, I called that one last time, so now I'm going to call this one. And I would just try to kind of like have a little sequence of people who would mentor me about different things so that I didn't ever bother any of them too much. And, this was just kind of a funny thing because it actually taught me a totally different lesson. What I was trying to do was not be an annoying new person that didn't know what they were doing. But instead, what I learned is how to connect and collaborate with my peers. I learned how to work with others, even if they weren't my favorite, and to accomplish goals. And through that, I built better relationships with those people who I thought maybe we didn't have as much in common. But as it turned out, we just had different things in common. They weren't as obvious right off the bat. And so as I learned to like them more, and hopefully they learned to like me more, I learned ways that I could connect with them and that we could use each other for help and for support. And so that was so helpful. And so now in my small business, I try to connect with other business owners and I try to collaborate them. I try to find leverage from others for a head start. So if they've done something well, I can ask them questions about that and learn how to get better at something faster. And that's where I love listening to podcasts. I love doing webinars. If the answer isn't directly in front of me, I like to go find other places to help me get that head start so that I don't struggle as much. So that was huge. All right, the last one I want to touch on today that I learned from a corporate environment is that I don't remember a time ever in which my upper management said, we have an initiative that we need met. Do you feel comfortable with that? Are you good at that? Do you want to do that? Is that something you'll like? Never. Never did they care. Like if there was an initiative that they want drove, they didn't care if I liked it. They didn't care if I agreed with it. They didn't care at all. They cared that I met the metric, that I met the number, and that I drove the initiative. And so this is something that I find interesting when I talk to some business owners, some small business owners, and they say things to me like, I choose not to take advantage of this advertising technique because I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm not good at that, so I don't do it. Well, is that the question or the statement you should be making? It should be, is this good for my business? And if it is, then I'm going to figure out how to make it work. And I don't think, I remember being a child and my mom would make me make a phone call, for whatever reason I needed to make a phone call somebody, ask a question. I don't know what it was. And I felt so uncomfortable. I didn't want to call people. If it wasn't like my little friend from school, I didn't want to call someone. I didn't want to ask a question. It was scary talking on the phone, and now it's like, okay, that's fine. Like I don't know when that went away, but obviously it was practice, and anything that felt uncomfortable has always gotten better with practice. I remember the first time I was designing some graphics for my social media and they were so bad. They were so bad. But I felt like I couldn't just delegate that out because I wasn't even prepared to share the message that I wanted portrayed And so I had to play with it and practice it so that I could get better at even saying, this is the messaging that I want. This is what my business messaging needs to be. And as I did it, it's like I got better at it, and I was actually able to do it really quickly. And I think it's gotten better. So, this is the interesting thing, is that a lot of small business owners think that it's acceptable or it's a good excuse to say, well, I'm not good at something, so I'm just not going to do it for my business. Well, that's not the point of being a small business owner. Like, yeah, you should have some freedoms, but if you're cannibalizing your own business's success to do that, then are you really a good business owner? Are you doing what's right for the organization? Are you moving it forward? And are you making sure it's viable for the future? And maybe you just have enough business that you just don't really need to do a good job at that. So kudos to you. I'm not that person yet. So yeah, anytime I find something that I don't feel comfortable with, I don't maybe want to do, I find resources and things to help me get better at it. I mentioned earlier, I do webinars. There's a lot of really great resources. If you're in a small town and you don't have as many local resources, you can go onto websites like score.org and the Small Business Administration. And there are a library of content there that is so helpful and just can walk you through some processes. I remember the first time I had to run a Google Ads and I was like, this is so terrifying. And then I did it and it was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Like, this isn't perfect. This isn't the best Google ad. I would not, tell someone, hey, I'm an expert at this, but I felt more comfortable with it. And so, the more you practice something, you're always going to feel more comfortable at it. So I think that and it also plays in with that district manager piece, is like, is there somebody really holding you accountable to do the things that you should in your business? And again, I mean, never did they say to me, well, if you're not good at it, you just don't have to do that then. Because that didn't happen. It was like, nope, this is the initiative. We're going to grade you on it. We're going to put you on a scorecard with all of your peers, and we're going to see if you're at the bottom. And if you are, we're going to nag you until you're not. So, all right. I hope you enjoyed some of the things that I found helpful for my small business that I pulled from my time and experience working in a corporate environment. So those are ways that I was able to grow through what I went through. Okay, today, what I would like you guys to do is I want to give a challenge. This is just a simple challenge to spread some positivity. So there are 3 pieces to this. Number 1, send a thoughtful message, just a nice, thoughtful message to somebody you haven't connected with in a while. 2, show some kindness to a stranger or someone who isn't in your inner circle. So just go out of your way to spread some kindness outside of that. And then give some kindness to yourself. Give yourself a kudos or a positive feedback for something that you've done, some stretch goal that you've reached. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you found something helpful, and let me know how I can do better to serve you. Thank you for joining me this week on the Small Business Hustle. I would love to hear your feedback so I can better serve you. And don't forget to subscribe so you can catch me next week, where we'll continue to talk about small business. If you found value in this podcast, you can show your support by sharing our podcast with your audience and your friends. We appreciate you, and please spread some positivity today. I promise it will do you wonders.